Hey, Anna.
Hey, Mike.
So I've registered Billy on Petly on the app, like you suggested, but I haven't really got into it. And I'm thinking, well, he's 6 now, and he's pretty well behaved. So, like, really, what's the point of the Petly app? What's it going to do for me?
Well, the Petly app is about understanding that your life with your dog is a journey. And through your journey, just like with us humans, we change and develop over our life stages. And, you know, enriching your dog mentally as well as physically is so important. So for me, for example, with my cases that I see, I'll help dogs on the day and throw so much advice at clients that I know I can see that they can't absorb it all. So of course we supply notes and follow up and backup. But what I can't do as a physical human being is be with these people every single day. So where Petly comes in is that it's on an app and it's easily accessible from home. It comes in all sorts of different levels from puppy up to senior in terms of training advice, new activities to try and engage your dog to do. There's always more to do with your dog. This is how I see it. I don't believe people tap into their dog's olfaction enough, not in a way that you can turn every dog into a little mini police search and rescue dog in your own home. And that really enriches dogs. It wears them out so quickly. And then they feel so confident and satisfied when they find what you were asking them to sniff out. So it's about helping your dog and learning more about what makes your dog tick and how to get the best out of your dog.
Okay, you got me sold. I will get back into the app and look into it a bit more, and I will find a program that's suitable for Billy. So to get Petly, Petli, do what I did. Download it from the App Store or Google Play.
Hey, Mr. Binks, I'm about to zoom off to the London Vet Show, so I'll see you later. I can't wait because I'm meeting up with the team from the Raw Feeding Vets Society and with Esther and Will from Paleo Ridge. And we're hopefully going to be talking to lots of vets about the benefits of feeding raw. I'm Anna Webb. Welcome to A Dog's Life. Hello, Esther Logue.
Hi, Anna.
Hello, Will Green.
Hello, Anna.
Hello, Anna Webb. Hello. We're currently at the London Vet Show, and we've just taken a little break to go to a quiet space away from the hubbub of the show to have a chat about vets and raw food. So, Will, tell us how the show's going this year for you already.
Well, fantastic. I think, can't believe it's a year.
I know, yeah. Then we were sat in the same place.
It's excellent. I think it's really important, really important for us to engage with vets. We're here actually supporting the RFVS,
Yeah.
the Raw Feeding Veterinary Society, who just had their conference on the weekend. So we've got all sorts of nutritious facts in our heads at the moment about raw feeding and all sorts. And so we're speaking to vets to basically talk to through the benefits of raw and trying to get away from some of the myths and all sorts.
Yeah, when you say myths and vets, over the years I've had quite a cold response, shall we say, from vets when I've mentioned that I feed my dogs on, a raw, balanced and complete meal. Often, they go a bit ashen white and they don't really know what to say apart from do a knee-jerk reaction that is, well, I don't approve of that. Or, that science isn't there, that's a balanced and complete solution. And they almost feel as though they're, grasping at straws. Esther, what would you say to that?
So I would say, I think it's just a lack of education thing in terms of nutrition because, I think we all know now that vets only get a very small amount of nutrition training during their whole time of training to become a vet, which is quite small. So now we're getting more and more people, we're getting more vets becoming interested in the raw feeding world, because they're getting lots of customers who are asking them about raw feeding and they want some advice. And it's really great to see that vets are starting to open their mind to raw feeding, which is one of the great benefits of being at the London Vet Show.
Yes, and I think, the Raw Feeding Vet Society was invited by the organisers to, have a stand on the basis, again, it's demand.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to say that it's, vets have a very, very tough job. They have, a busy schedule. There's a lot that comes in. They never know what's going to come through their door. And, it's very difficult for them. And it's quite telling that, the first talk this morning was Brendan speaking about raw feeding, and it was absolutely packed. It was very popular talk. So people want to learn. It's just improving the access to learning about raw feeding, improving the access to nutritional advice, that might not be available to them.
Absolutely. And it's just great that it's being driven, I think, by actual, pet parents, dog owners who might be thinking about a healthier lifestyle for themselves, and in doing so learn perhaps about the microbiome in a human and why they need to be fueling that for themselves, and think, well, gosh, what about my dog? Now, Esther, you're studying a lot of nutrition, and in fact a course a bit like my course about overall naturopathic wellness. So what would you say to vets asking on the stand here today about the bioavailability, for example, of raw over processed?
Yeah, so I would say, a lot of the people I've spoken to actually today who've approached the stand have said that they, not only are they getting customers coming in and asking about, raw food, themselves are actually learning more about human nutrition. So because they're doing that, it's opening their eyes to, what their dog is feeding. And I think the more research that's being done now from vets looking into raw feeding, they are starting to understand that, what is actually bioavailable for a dog, why processed foods are damaging to not only the microbiome, but, everything else in the body. And it's just really interesting to see vets kind of start to come out about this. And I think there is still a lot of, there's still a lot of myths about raw feeding. There is, the whole bacteria thing, and, it's quite scary for a lot of people. But that's why there's organisations like the RFVS, who are there to help people, to guide people. And then there's companies, who support them, like Paleo Ridge, who, again, have, their phone lines are open, their emails are open, so that anybody who has any questions and wants to do raw feeding the right way, they've got all of this help there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so brilliant. I mean, speaking for myself, I've seen dogs transform from a switch-in diet. And I just think there are vets out there already that champion raw. We mustn't pretend that all vets don't like raw at all, Yeah. So, and it's just about creating perhaps space in stores for them to have freezers, or are you thinking more just for recommending raw, or thinking for vets that do have, boutique outlets to stock raw as well? Will, what do you think?
Well, we've got vets in the UK that stock Paleo Ridge and recommend it, and we're very proud of our vets program. We if people can't stock the product because they don't have a freezer or don't have the space for a freezer, then we have a referral scheme, an affiliate scheme that they can be part of. So there's lots of options for that. And I think, so we're hopefully paving the way for working closer with the vets as we go on.
I mean, it's a massive route to market, and it would just be so great, speaking from my own experience over, the last 20 years, to be welcomed at a vet when, they know that you feed raw. Rather than not welcomed, really. That's unfortunately my own experience. So I look forward to a new, journey really with dogs in the future, where, you're not pigeonholed. Because I think some people, I remember once somebody thought I was a member of a cult because I fed my dog raw. Esther.
Wow. Okay. So that's a bit crazy. Feeding a dog a species appropriate diet shouldn't be seen as a cult. But the thing is about, the vets club that we offer is like, we basically want vets to feel comfortable with raw feeding. You know, we want them to be able to offer it to their clients, because you know, a lot of people are moving over to the way of raw. If they can distribute raw food from their practice and know that it's safe, and they can give the reassurance to their customers, then that is basically all we want. We just want, you know, everybody to have an open mind about it and be able to have access to raw feeding. So that's why we're offering this exclusive Vets Club, you know, with an exclusive discount for vets, so they can offer good food for species appropriate diet. And
the only cult is the cult of the curious, and we all want to learn. And I think actually there's a really good quote from the marketing side and consumer behaviour, which is that people are afraid of things that they don't understand. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, usually when you can explain things, when people can understand things in the long term, you know, you get over these barriers. And you know, and I think that's what we're trying to do. That's what, you know, it needs to happen, because, you know, we're 10 to 20% of people are feeding raw now, and you know, vets can't afford to omit those people from the services they offer, because, you know, people will stop going to vets, and that's not what we want. We don't want that. We want people to go to vets. We want vets to have a full offering, you know, to be able to support people through their raw feeding journey, and everything else, you know, their dog's health and their dog's life.
Absolutely, and it is all about change and about learning in life, whatever you do, and improvement, you know, even on an individual level. But I do remember a vet practice, I won't mention any names, in London, who wasn't awfully supportive about me feeding Molly on raw ages ago, my first miniature bull terrier, particularly raw green tripe. Latterly, many years later, I went in there actually to buy a bag of prescription diet, actually, as I had to study a bag of it for my study that I did on natural nutrition, you see. And I noticed, I won't mention any brands, but it was a lovely raw freezer in there, a vertical freezer. And I just said to the girl in reception, gosh, how times change. And she just said very, very sort of, you know, monosyllabically, minimum emotion, bestseller. Doesn't surprise me. Esther, one more word from you.
Well, I think that says it all, really. And that's like amazing to hear that that's happened. But I can guarantee you that that's happened all over the country. You know, and I just really, really hope that more and more vets will just be open-minded. You know, we're not telling them that they should suddenly start recommended raw, full stop, and get rid of all the food that they have now. It's just to be open-minded, give it a try, and just try and understand the customer's needs. Yeah, and understand that raw feeding pet parents really care about their dogs.
Exactly. You know, and they want to get on with their vets as well, don't they, Will?
Yeah, everyone wants to get on together. I think it's you know, what it comes back to is it's just really important that people kind of are open to educate themselves. You know, they're open to look into things, and to actually, you know, before making a decision about like what you're going to feed your dog, make sure you educate yourself. I think everybody understands that in most kind of types of pets, the different types of pets that you can get, you need to do your research. You need to make sure that you're going to be able to look after that dog. You need to make sure you're going to be able to afford to do so, and so you need to make sure that you've researched what kind of things your dog should be eating and what kind of nutrition is important to keep that dog healthy, keep that dog away from the vets for the wrong reasons in the long term as well.
Yes, I mean, that's that is a key here, isn't it? That I think raw-fed dogs do stay away from the vets, perhaps a bit more, you know, in terms of less allergies, less reactions to flea bites, you know, lots of calcium in their bones, keeps them, you know, less arthritic. Well, basically, raw food feeding reduces inflammation in the body rather than promoting inflammation in the body. But that's all part of the journey to learn. So, Will, Esther, you were both up at the Raw Feeding Vet Society conference at the weekend, which sadly I didn't get to because it was quite far away, but I wish I had, because it sounded like there were a lot of juicy conversations, and you did speak to a few vets up there, didn't you, Will?
Absolutely, yeah. We had a really good time up there, and it was actually the first time I've been to a RFVS conference as well. So I'm not say, the biggest expert in nutrition, and so hearing like firsthand from leaders in the field of canine nutrition was absolutely amazing. And I think the funny thing was that a lot of us all bought supplements while we were up there because of some of the things, even though it was for canine nutrition. There were so many things that go into human nutrition as well. And I just think really just it's like an eye opener that we can have deficiencies if we're not covering nutritional bases, and the best way to cover nutrition, and like we were talking about earlier, bioavailability of ingredients, and you can get synthetic supplements, and they don't get absorbed by the body, they just pass through the body because they're not bioavailable. And I thought that was really interesting. Because it built on the knowledge I already have working for Paleo Ridge. But yeah, thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah, that is interesting, the synthetic supplements. I know supplements, I've recently started to buy a supplement that really claims everything's clean on a human level, because supplements do have a lot of fillers in. So anyway, I'm buying my own human supplements that are now, supposed to be clean. But of course, Esther, there's nothing better than getting everything from the whole actual food.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, same with, humans, dogs, the best nutrients you can get is fresh, whole vitamins, which come from natural foods or plants, for us. But all of these synthetic supplements that are being marketed now are, like you said, they're full of fillers, and the actual type of vitamins and minerals they use in them aren't actually that bioavailable to us. So we only, as humans, absorb about 4% of some of those. So, in terms of dogs as well, I imagine it's probably about the same. So by feeding a raw natural diet, you're going to get all of the vitamins and minerals, so you don't need to supplement, and your dogs are getting them firsthand. They are bioavailable, and they're abundant as well, so you don't have to have lots of different types of supplements. You can get it all from one meal, which is incredible.
Yeah, it does seem ridiculously simple, but in a way that's what it is. Nature is simple. It's not a complicated thought process, really. You are what you eat. This really isn't new. Hippocrates was talking about this in 600 BC. So it's maybe to go forward, we need to go back a little bit. What do you think?
I totally agree. It's, even back to Ayurvedic medicine, which was, over 5,000 years ago or however long. And, their stance was about, the science of life. And the science of life is you need food, and nutritious food, water, exercise, sunshine, all of these wonderful things, nature. And it really is that simple. And I know that there's a lot of, for humans and for dogs, there's so many things on the market for us to be able to buy, whether it's processed foods, supplements, when in reality, if we go back to the basics, and give our bodies what they need, which is, good nutritious food, then sometimes there's not a need for all of these additionals.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. What do you think, Will?
Well, sometimes Esther says things and I don't necessarily understand everything. But what I think is important is if you think like why we feed supplements, and supplements in my eyes are there to cover deficiencies. So if you're covering the bases with the actual food in the first place, you don't need to feed as much in terms of supplements to cover any deficiencies, because their food in the first place is more nutritious. And I think that kind of comes back to why we have the recipes that we have for certain foods that we sell, because we make sure that we cover more nutritional bases. And that might be adding pancreas to a food, or it might be adding like a specific type of offal. Sometimes it's making sure that a single protein has enough of a variety of like ingredients in that, so that it doesn't just cover a really narrow nutritional base.
No, it's so interesting. I mean, when I was speaking to a vet recently, I explained that everything was in my cat's food, and it was like, yeah, you're right, because it's already in the food, right, Hannah? Yes, it's already in the food, but it did take a moment, but I think that's what education's all about. isn't it? And this is what Paleo's hoping to do with your vet club.
Yeah, definitely. That's all we want to do, is just educate people, for the benefit of dog owners, cat owners, is that we just want people to know all of the facts and know that this is a perfectly safe way of feeding your pet. And going forward, we will keep trying to educate as much as we can. And there's never any, judgment towards people who haven't fed raw before. It's we just want to be there for reassurance. We want to be there for advice, and basically just for vets to know that we're always open to have discussions about the benefits of raw feeding and answer any questions that they might have.
Fantastic. I love that. Will, lastly, just, a pearl of wisdom from yourself, please.
Oh, that's put me on the spot. I think it's, again, just going back to, my raw feeding journey started, I think it was like 4 years ago now. And, my dog Misty, she was kind of 18 months at the time of making the switch. And, I think the thing that convinced me was seeing the changes in her making the switch to raw, from what was a highly processed food, but a very expensive one. I wasn't feeding her, a cheap one by any means, and seeing the change in her behaviour, in her kind of physique, and there was nothing that could convince me more than that. And I think that we're actually in a really privileged position at Paleo Ridge, because we hear these stories from customers all the time. And so do many other raw brands as well. It's not just us. We get to see, hear, witness firsthand the changes that are made. And I think sometimes it can seem a little bit too good to be true when you hear this and when you're talking to people, and sometimes you feel like you have to temper that, because you don't want. I certainly don't want people to think that raw is just the
Holy Grail.
Yeah, but and of course, there are things that nutrition can't fix, and there's always going to be a place for vets. There's always going to be a place for good nutrition, and it's all about how we all work together. It's not about vets versus raw dog food companies. It's not about anything like that. It's about how we find a way that we all work together. We all want happy, healthy dogs, and and it shouldn't be about the one thing is the best way to there's only one way to feed a dog. That's not true. We know that.
No, that is so true. And some dogs, don't do so well on raw. Some dogs are a little bit better off on a lightly cooked option. And that's because everyone's an individual, whether you're a human or a dog. And that's also something I think is a good way to factor in. But I mean, for me, whole functional food is for me something I'm very, very passionate about. But yes, so thank you guys for sharing all of this, and we better get back to the stand.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. That's our show, Mr. Binks. What did you think? Yes, you are what you eat. You're quite right. Well, that was just a bulletin episode highlighting what is going on down at the London Vet Show. Tune in again on Sunday to catch another episode with Carolina Lupo from Petley. See you then. Bye for now.